Hello and welcome to a very rare and special episode of Michael and Mom Talk Cancer. I'm your official host, Michael Reed Kramer, and
I am the other official host, Ashlee Mom Kramer. And okay, Michael always says this is a special episode. This one is actually.
Well, I said it was rare.
Okay.
I didn't just say special and extraordinary. I just say special and extraordinary today. I said rare. I don't think I've ever said rare. So this is.
I'm
rare.
honored.
No, but I want to say even more rare. It's like the first time. It's like what do you call it when something is the first time ever?
It's like I don't know the word.
Just like the first of its kind. Oh.
One of a kind?
One of a kind interview. We are so excited because we have someone
limited edition.
Oh,
I like that.
How about
I like that.
First edition.
First
Edition, limited edition. We have someone so special to our hearts. This is Grisell, and she is just the most beautiful human in the world. Not a cancer survivor. We had a lot of cancer survivors on, but she does work in child life specialty. And this is, if you don't know what it is, we're going to get into it with Grisell. And woo! Like cheers from the audience.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
this is so exciting.
Oh my
but
God.
yeah, I'm Grisell and I'm a child life specialist, specifically in Hem/Onc, which is how I came upon this world and the Michael and Mom world. But no, thank you for having me and for asking me to be the first child life specialist to be on this podcast.
The first ever, the one and only. You are the one. You are the that's what it is. You're the OG.
The OG.
You are the OG.
Yeah.
Actually, Ellie and then you, but we'll get into that. First of all, you need to explain, because I think
What is a child life specialist?
A lot of people don't know, because I have to say I did not know, and when I found out about you, I was like,
that's pretty cool.
Everyone needs this.
Yeah.
And that adults need a child life specialist.
And that's usually the reaction. Even when I first was looking into child life, I didn't know what it was.
Oh, yeah. So tell me your story, even of how you fell into it, because that was another question. So if you want lead up, you can tell us how you fell into it and then explain what it is.
So when I was in high school, I worked, I volunteered for a special needs camp. And so I knew I always wanted to work with kids. I at least had that kind of honed in. All right, kids, peds. I liked the medical field, but I didn't necessarily want to go into doctor, nurse, kind of that area. Okay. So one of my friends at the time, she was a few years older. And so she wanted to do occupational therapy. So I was like, oh, I think that's what I want to do. Went to college, told myself I want to do OT. So when I went to college, I volunteered for a local children's hospital that was just right by my school. And I saw online.
Can I ask where you're from?
Yeah.
Where are you from?
So born and raised in Miami.
Oh, okay.
But
perfect.
Went to school at Suffolk University in Boston.
Okay.
So went to the cold for a few years. I loved it. I loved every second of it. Everyone was always like, this Miami girl loves snow. And I was like, absolutely.
Okay, I hate interrupting you, but I am going to say I was born in Florida, moved to New York when I was 17, lived in New York, lived in Paris, lived in Montreal, loved every second of the snow.
I loved it. I was just telling someone the other day, there's nothing like a fresh snowfall.
True.
That is truly the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And Michael's face right now, he's like,
I agree.
He's like, I'm a surfer.
Nice sunrise on the beach.
A nice sunrise on the beach is good too.
Which, don't get me wrong, I love a good sunset, sunrise, but there's something about the snowfall.
I agree.
But yeah, so I was in Boston for a few years, and so I saw Child Life Volunteer. And so I thought, cool, you get to be close to the kids. I'm going to volunteer. That's how I'm going to get my foot in the door in the hospital. Didn't even really ask too much about what child life was, because my brain was like OT.
Right.
So then the summer, I don't know if it was the summer before my junior year or I think it was the summer before my senior year. I stayed in Boston and I shadowed an OT. And then I also, because I had asked to stay as a child life volunteer, they were like, oh, well, you can shadow us as well. And I was like, sure, why not? It doesn't hurt. Saw OT and I was like, I don't know if I like this. Saw child life and I was like, this is it. And I looked into it, and that's when I totally changed my mind. Ended up going into a master's program into it. And basically what child life is, the way that we explain it to like the kids and the parents, is we're kind of like teachers in the hospital. So we're the ones that help you understand why you're here. What are we going to do? What is your plan of care? But in terms that are appropriate for that child's developmental level, and we kind of adjust it based on that. And then basically it's trying to make the hospital as easy and as comfortable as possible. So depending on what unit you work on, it's a little bit different, but that's kind of the basis of it, is being a teacher.
It's beautiful. As I said, I think adults could use this as well. I mean, it was great for me too, because of course you're speaking. Well, Michael was like in between adult. He was diagnosed at
Yeah.
19. But still, I've seen you deal with like younger children. I've seen you deal with every age. And it's like, it's the most wonderful teaching because it puts it in our language. And
Yeah.
it's not like, I hate when people say you need to dumb down the vocabulary. It's not dumbing it down. It's putting
It's
into
just
words
meeting
that
them
you
at their
could,
level.
it's meeting them at their level. And even for the parents, I've seen you talk to so many parents, and including me, we've had so many conversations, and it just makes it in words you can understand. Because sometimes,
Yeah.
we talk about how in the medical field, and you're in oncology, which I also want to talk to, like how you got into oncology. But in the
I was
oncology
gonna
world,
ask that.
yeah,
Yeah.
in the oncology world, there's so many new terms. It's like a brand new vocabulary.
Right.
And you have to pick it up quickly. And
Yeah.
doctors, we had the most wonderful doctors, most wonderful nurses, but sometimes they say something and you're like, what? I don't know
Yeah.
what they just
And you
I
have to
said.
had a,
explain that to the
yeah,
kids.
exactly.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
a patient once who was a new leukemia. And I'll never forget. It was like, I think it was pretty early on, I would say, um, when I started child life, specifically in oncology. And I think it's still one of the funniest times ever, because the doctor at the time was also in the corner with the mom explaining it, like, okay, like this is what it is. And I'm there explaining it to the child. And so you saw the clear differences. I'm there with like my whiteboard, my different markers, like the yellow one for the platelets, the red one for the red blood cells. Like I had one for the cancer. So like I was drawing it all out, versus the doctor's just like, okay, yeah, so it's going to be this. We're starting chemo. This is a plan. And the mom just looked, and she looked over. She goes, can I join her lesson? And then
Yeah, that's so funny.
after she ended up sitting down with me, she goes, wait, can you explain it the way you explained it to him? And I was like, of course. And so I kind of went over everything again.
Oh,
But
that's
it
beautiful.
goes to show, like, and I think it's a fun part too. Like we always kind of joke, like we're here for the parents as well. And sometimes they need
Yeah.
it in those simple terms as well. And I think that's definitely the fun part of it.
Okay, so the question we both wanted to ask, I'll let you ask it though.
Oh, how'd you get into oncology?
Because oncology we have
Yeah,
learned,
was it a
is
Yeah.
very
choice?
special.
Like, was it a choice, or you were just like put in there? I don't know how it works
Yeah.
exactly.
So this is always a fun question because people are always very surprised. I think I love HEMONC, and I've been very fortunate. I think
And
that,
wait, if you don't know, people, HEMONC is hematology
oh,
oncology.
yes.
Because
Which is
not,
cancer.
it's
Yeah.
not just because there
Well,
are
yeah,
blood, there's some,
right, of
you have
course.
some
You have
like,
like the aplastic anemias.
yeah.
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 But I mean, I love HEMONC, and I think that I can't imagine myself somewhere else, which is funny because basically the way that it works in child life is what's required of you is a bachelor's, 10 specific courses, from the ACLP, which is the Association of Child Life Professionals. So all the different things that we have to know as child life professions. So child development, medical terminology, there's usually like a death and dying class, therapeutics of play, like all these different things that encompass what we do. Then you do a 600-hour internship, and that can be really in any children's hospital. And you basically just get placed in whatever rotations they have available. So my rotations were, actually was HEMONC, and then I did med-surg, and med-surg, their units were specifically respiratory, observation, and gastro. And so then after that, you apply for a job, and it's really just what's available. You
Right.
don't get to pick your unit. So I could have ended up, let's say, if the only job available at the time was a cardiac intensive unit, I would have had that, and that wasn't any of my rotations. So I would have had to learn everything essentially from scratch. Yes, you know the skills. Yes, you know the development. Yes, you know how you're going to kind of teach something for an 8-year-old versus a 16-year-old, but you'd have to relearn all the actual medical terminology for that specific unit.
Right.
So at the time, when I finished my internship, the only job available happened to be an oncology position.
Okay.
So I worked actually in a primarily adult hospital, but had like a pediatric like section. And so I followed the kids there specifically for radiation. So I taught them about radiation.
Okay.
But then after that, I moved over to a freestanding children's hospital. And at the time, they had, I think it was 2 positions available. It was HEMONC or med-surg. I fully thought I was going to go to med-surg because I was like, I'm still a baby, like child eye specialist.
Yeah.
And then on my first day, they were like, okay, let's take you to your office on the HEMONC floor. And that's when I found out I was going to be HEMONC, and I was terrified.
Oh, wow.
May I ask you, I know you don't want to say what hospital, but was that the hospital where we were with you?
Yeah.
Or is that a different? Okay. I didn't know if that was your first. So your first job was at an adult hospital, and the second job was when we met you.
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Do most children's hospitals is child life specialty? Like we take it for granted, I think.
Is it in every pediatric hospital?
I would imagine.
So for the most part, it is, and I'd hope that it is.
I would hope. That's what I was saying. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh my God, I hope it is, but we're so
But
lucky.
I think that unfortunately, it's still seen as not an essential position in many children's hospitals, and the, I guess, like stereotype of a child eye specialist, it has come a long way. When it first, came about, it was basically like the play ladies and the ones that just make the kids happy. And then now it's kind of become more of like a clinical position, but every hospital is different. So fortunately enough for my hospital, we are seen more clinical than other hospitals, but there are some places I know that child life could be one of the first positions that they lay off if they have to. So it really is kind of different, but the goal is that every children's hospital should have a child eye specialist, and it should be
100%.
like fully staffed, and that's kind of the struggle too.
Yeah, 100%.
I have a question I want to ask. It just came into my mind. How do you differentiate the role from being a child life specialist and in a way like a therapist? Because you're kind of like, do you ever feel like sometimes you're like a therapist and a child life specialist when you have a kid and they're kind of just like talking to you? Because it's not like when you're a therapist, you're just talking, but you're playing with them. So do they ever like talk to you and you kind of feel like a therapist?
Yeah. So, and I think that's also something that's always funny to explain, like when I first meet families, because they're like, oh, so you're like social work or psychology? I'm like, no, I say I'm like a nice happy medium.
Right.
I feel like, because we provide support in different ways. And I think that's also just a part of our training, is knowing where that fine line is of like, yes, say our primary, I always say like my secret power or my superpower is like building rapport and getting to know my patients.
100%.
So that then, let's say, oh my God, Michael in room 6 is freaking out. We have to do a dressing change. Like when I walk in, Michael knows I'm a safe person. Michael knows I'm, like I am that comfort, but that also takes time. So it's like building that rapport, but then also knowing the fine line of like, okay, if I'm with, Michael, he's talking to me, telling me all these things, but then, okay, this now crossed over to like psychology needs to come in. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of just learning where that line is. And that's a big part of like our internship.
I mean, I thought it was amazing, because it's true, when Michael was first diagnosed, you weren't there. It was a different child life specialist. And I remember, he was diagnosed that same day. That was in the evening. He was taken to the 6th tower to put the port the next morning, first thing. And the child life specialist came in and she was like, I know you're 19, but she's like, I still brought this with me. And she had a doll, but it still was it was great, because she still explained like how the port goes, where, the lines, how it would be. And so I thought it was still amazing. And right away I was like, oh my God, I didn't understand all this.
The teens are always fun.
My husband had been through cancer 4 years prior, and like there was a lot that I learned because of him, but I knew more. I knew more details with Michael, and that same child life specialist, when he was put in for his bone marrow transplant, knowing he was going to be in there for 6 weeks, she knew Michael, so she helped me like find things to put in the room that he could
Mm-hmm.
relate to that were like Michael. You
Right.
know, she
Yeah.
she got
I
these
remember
cat
that was
blankets.
actually the first time I met you guys.
Yeah, I know.
I
I
remember, and
remember.
it was the cat pillow.
Yes. The
Oh
cat
yeah.
the cat pillow, he had a cat blanket. Oh, and here's our cat right now in the video. She's like, okay, I want to be in the Zoom. Um, but sorry. Goodbye, Kitty. You're not in our podcast. She likes to be in all the
She does.
podcasts. We try to
She's
edit
like, I
her
gotta be
out.
in all of them.
We
So I
try
have
to
a
edit her out.
question that I want to ask as well
Yeah.
about just child life. So I think that I see the child life specialist more when I'm inpatient. How do they deal
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
outpatient patients? Like, do they, is there,
I've
this is,
seen them in infusion,
yeah, like, do you
though,
guys go to
Yeah.
actually.
infusion?
So it again, like staffing is different at every hospital. But and again, in an ideal world, we would be
Right.
in every single spot in
In
the
the
children's
ER,
hospital.
especially.
Yeah.
I mean, ER is
Right.
scary.
Yeah. So inpatient wise, I'm very much, and it's funny because during like your clinical, like your internships, you kind of figure out, okay, am I an inpatient specialist or am I more an outpatient specialist? I am inpatient through and through.
Because
I
you're a
like,
relationship girl.
yes, I
Yes.
love that. That's what I love. I love like creating those special moments. Like, oh my God, I love, I know this patient loves cats, so I'm gonna, get all these cats. Like it's different. I like sitting down and doing that education. But outpatient, I mean, again, depending on the outpatient area, but ED, for example, is more procedural based and
Right.
very fast paced. So they're still doing those teachings, but versus when my teachings maybe will take me 30 minutes, they're going to get it in under 10 because
Right.
the nurse is already prepping everything. The doctor's already coming to do the stitches in like 15 minutes. So
Yeah.
it's different, but it's still that teacher kind of like base. It's just in a
Yeah.
different setting.
Someone that's not so, I mean, not that doctors are scary, and they're not, they're wonderful. We've had wonderful experiences, but doctors, boom. And,
Yes.
even if they try to make an effort, it's not their fault. And even the
Yeah.
nurses, they have
Yeah.
like,
They have
I,
things to do. They're in and
yeah.
out, but then we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to then be like, okay, like we're trying to create it to be more of a safe space, like so you understand and so that it's not so scary when they come in with all these different tools and all these things ready to go. It's like, okay, but like we already explained it, like we set up a plan, like we're gonna watch this video while we do your stitches. Like remember, this is what the spray's gonna sound like when they put it on your hands, before the needle, like things like that.
It's
Um,
the
no,
preparation is the best.
yeah, I think
I'm
that's my favorite part.
I am so happy because what you said, like some people used to think child life was like the woman that plays with them or whoever that
Mm-hmm.
comes. No, because you are so clinically brilliant. I learned that so quickly that you know everything and you know so many things.
We try, we try.
You do. But then there's also the beautiful, fun things like there's an example of a story. I don't know, you guys can share it, but at one point Michael was admitted for a very long time.
Hmm.
And we had a joke that he was the king of Six Tower.
Of
And
course.
you set up this whole ceremony with some other
Oh,
nurses
that's
to
very
That
come
was
funny.
so
in
fun.
with a
That
scepter
was funny.
and a crown. And we did a whole, like,
And
a
like
whole,
I love those moments. It's and again, that's why I always tell my students, like that's why building rapport is your superpower. Because if you don't take the time to get to know your patients, then you're not going to have as much then create those special moments. And like the teaching is important and you could, it's important for them to understand, but it's also important to, get to know them and do that. But no, that's one of my favorite memories. I was actually cleaning my desk. I think it was earlier this
oh,
week. And my activity assistant who was helping me found it and she was like, how
Oh,
often do you use this? And I was like, not really, but like we can't give it away. I did a
oh,
coronation once, like we have to keep it. Maybe I'll
wow.
do another coronation.
Oh,
oh my
And I was like,
God.
I did the coronation. I was like, so no, I was like, keep it at my desk, it's fine. I
Oh
was like,
my,
I'll live
oh.
here.
it's true. It changes. And there are a lot of things. You wanted to ask something. I don't
Yeah,
want to
it's
interrupt you.
actually so off topic, but it's on topic. Like, because I always think of this as anyone who works in healthcare and builds relationships with patients. how do you like separate work life and regular life?
I
'Cause,
was gonna ask the same
yeah,
question.
I
We're
think,
so connected,
I mean,
Michael. I was
Same
gonna say the
person.
same thing.
because I'm sure it's not easy. Like you're dealing with oncology patients.
Especially oncology, and
Yeah.
there is death. I was thinking about that
Yeah,
as well.
it's not easy.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's why also why I was so terrified to do
Yes.
oncology. So I had
Yes.
done one of my rotations in it and I loved it. I loved the relationships I built and I kind of loved that part of child life. But I was like, that's good for someone else. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I can do that. And so but again, like I said in child life, sometimes you don't really have the choice of where you're gonna end up. Not that you would ever be then like forced on a unit if you're unhappy. Again, I ended up falling in love with Hemonc. But it's something that I definitely had to learn early on. Like, okay, what can I do right now when I'm okay to then prevent from me not being okay later on? So I know one big thing that they always tell us in child life is just like when you're home and try not to, you know, leave work at work. And it's so hard, I think, especially in oncology. I've learned just because you, at least for me, like you want to then be a part of, let's say, the 5K that an organization is doing, or you want to be part of that other event because you love it so much and they support you so much on a day-to-day basis. But I think it's also learning that boundary and learning that it's okay to say no sometimes,
Right.
because we'd rather have that person, you know, say no and continue to be okay versus say yes to everything and then burn themselves out.
Of course.
So it's kind of just finding that balance, and it's still hard. Again, oncology does involve death, and it's sad. We do lose patients, but it's also finding like that self-care and having that moment to yourself and being like, okay, like it's part of it.
It is part of it, and it is part of life. And I think that it's not like you're not. Nothing against Uber drivers, but it's not like an Uber driver. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing against Uber. If anyone
Yeah.
out there listening drives Uber, like that's
Yeah.
amazing. But it is not the same thing that you can just like go
I met a
home.
guy surfing who does Uber, so you're gonna.
We did. We met him.
That's
I
cool.
was with you. I met him too. What are you talking about? But yeah, so nothing. But yes, it is one of those jobs that I'm sure the line is a little bit gray.
It's hard, yeah,
A
especially
little
when you
bit gray.
build so many
A
of those
little.
relationships.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
it's
I've
tough.
I've seen you at a couple of celebrations of life, and
Yeah.
and it is part of it. It's so hard, but oncology is also beautiful. The relationships are just
I think, and I
beautiful.
always say, because again, whenever I have students or anyone shadowing me, or just they're like, how do you do it? Like, it's because you see so many different, again,
Oh
ends
my
of it.
gosh, yes.
And I just think the way I like to see it is just, I feel like it really is like an honor and a privilege to be able to be a part of everyone's journey, no matter what that journey entails, you know? So being part of that new diagnosis education at the beginning, helping them understand like this is okay, like I get it now, this is what I have. But even when it comes to our end of life patients, just being able to then create like those keepsakes that family's going to have forever, like that's the biggest honor, like to be able to create that. And again, having known a patient for so long, to then be able to make it as unique as possible, like it's I don't know if it's like weird to say, but that does bring me a little bit of joy in the sense of, you know, I'm able to create like that moment and that thing that they're going to have forever. And it's in one of the hardest times of their life. If I could bring like a little bit of light to it, like that like fills my cup, if that makes sense.
Of course, it's purpose. Like I think
Yeah.
that's a big part of it is you are also, I mean, our thing was always the best way to help ourselves is help other people. And I think your job is just helping so much. And I know literally just with Michael, you saw Michael in so many different stages. You personally didn't see him at diagnosis. I know someone else did. But from like, so I want to say sort of healthy, you saw him run the gamut of getting better, getting worse, almost passing away, getting better, getting worse.
Yeah.
And then now, you know, doing so much better, and you're on the podcast. And so you've seen everything.
I know. It's amazing because I remember you and I used to talk about it. Like, okay, like what are we thinking? Like, what do you think, you know, we want to do after? And like, you know, I think, and I remember the day you're like, because you had said you had the kind of like a list. It was like top three, and you're like, I think kind of like podcasts and like just motivational speakers starting to go up and up. And I remember telling you, I was like, that's my number one choice for you. Like, I know I can't pick
I
for
really
you,
wanted to be a
but
child life
that
specialist.
I know. And even
Yeah.
then, even with you having that be part of your top three, I still was like, you're like a motivational speaker. I think is gonna be like, I was like, it's still number one. I was like, not that I don't want you to do child life,
Yeah,
because you would be amazing.
I
But I
know.
mean, look at all that you guys are doing and all that you've done.
Yeah.
We've been inspired, and we always say that we are here because of all the love and the
Yeah,
people
we
that
always say
lifted us
that.
up, and that you are such a big part
Part
of
of
that.
that, yeah.
Such a big part of
It's
it.
true.
Did you know anyone before this, or have you, like, with cancer?
I didn't. Never.
Yeah.
I was, which is again another reason why I was terrified of working
Yeah.
hemonc.
Yeah.
And coincidentally, it's crazy how life, I feel like, happens. I had never had any sort of cancer in my family, and within, I think it was probably like a few months of me starting my first job, my aunt got diagnosed with glioblastoma,
Wow.
and
Wow.
then I
Hard.
think it was like 2 months after, my other aunt, same family on my dad's side, got diagnosed with AML.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so they passed away. I think it was about like a year now, but it
Oh,
was
I'm sorry.
crazy that,
Yeah.
and then it was scary because it's like, okay, now I know, like I know too much, like
Yeah.
I know a different side of it. So it was different. It was crazy because yeah, I was never able to relate to it on a personal level. But at the same time, I think it was a blessing in disguise in the sense of I was able to support my dad in a different way that I don't think I would have been able to do
Of
if I
course.
didn't work in hemonc. And to be able to, I don't know everything, and I don't fully understand sometimes what the doctors are saying, but at least at that time, I was able to decipher a little bit more again than I would have if I hadn't been working in hemonc and helping my dad understand it and helping him cope, through that time.
We always feel like, in a way, Patrice, my husband, helped prepare us for Michael. And that's like a weird thing to say, but you want to take the good out of it. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't want that to happen to my husband, but if it had to happen, at least it gave us so many lessons and preparation. Do you want to ask about, like, Thrive Fest? Because recently...
Oh yeah, because we had Lana on the podcast.
Yeah, we recently had Lana. She'll
We
probably
did.
air just before this one. And we were talking about Thrive Fest and how you guys came up with it and how you met. Do you want to share just a little bit of that?
Yeah.
And then we'll ask you a couple of fun questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as part of being a child life specialist, I get to be part of a yearly, like 1 week long camp. And that's how I met Lana. And
Okay.
we kind of just thought of we were just in conversation talking about different things. And I'm always looking at like, what more can we do for like our patients? Like, how can we better support them? Like, how can we, do more resources? And we got into the topic of just survivorship in general and how there aren't a lot of things out there. And we decided
Especially pediatric, right?
which is crazy. Yeah.
Because they
like
need it the most. Yeah.
And it's truly mind boggling sometimes,
Yeah.
but we thought, okay, let's do it ourselves. And so we created an event specifically for cancer survivors. And the way I always love to describe it is one-stop shop is the goal, is to be able to have everything in one place. Because we also don't want it to be hard. That was the point. Is I feel like a lot of survivors will be like, okay, yeah, like I can go back to where I got treated, but then I have to go to another place and maybe then like follow up with this place. And so we wanted it to be just kind of one place. This is where all your resources are. And it was honestly beyond my expectations. I think that Alana and I always joke that it was like the best day of our lives, because it was just like this little dream that then like became reality. And everyone was so supportive from the beginning, like just contacting different organizations, contacting you guys. Everyone was just so on board. And I think that was the craziest part, because we hadn't done it before. This is the first time anything, again, like you said, one of its kind.
Yes.
This is the first of its kind from what we know of an event like this specifically for cancer survivors. And we had nothing. Everyone had just our word to go off of it. it was just us kind
We
of calling.
trusted you, girl.
Exactly. Like that was, I think, the most like humbling part was everyone truly trusted us. And they were just like, yeah, like go for it. Like we'll be there. Like what date? And so now it's even more amazing and more exciting, I think, for hopefully next time around and hopefully next year. Now we have something. Like, we have pictures this time. We
First annual, girl.
yeah,
First annual.
I know. But
It
no,
was
It
amazing.
was amazing. I can't wait for next year.
Yeah, we're there.
Oh yeah, we're there.
Michael and Mom are back. Second time around. We can't wait. It was
No, it
beautiful.
was, yeah.
It was not like a first time event. You guys did an incredible job.
We got so many comments after. There was one mom that came out to me. She's like, oh, like, how long have you guys been doing this for? And I was like, oh no, this is like the first year we've hosted this. She's like, I would have never been able to tell.
Yeah.
And then Brian from Oliver Patch was like, this is the best event ever. And I was like, Brian, stop. Like, no. And he's like, no, seriously. And Lana and I were like, no.
It was
like, there's no way.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
It was. I love that you and Lana did that. And I know that you were asking her about her personal journey.
Yeah.
That's kind of where this like stemmed from, because she kind of told us the story. And when you talked to her, you realized the gaps.
Yeah, it was because she'd been out of transplant for X amount of years. And I was like, there's no way that someone out of transplant for this many years is feeling the same way as my patient who's just about to get out of transplant. Like that's not okay. Like there needs to be more support. Like I would understand if someone feels that way a year, maybe 2 years out, like they haven't found the proper resources, like maybe there's some help. But Lana was
20 years out.
Yeah, 20 years out.
Yeah.
So it's just like, no, like we have to change that.
Yeah, and there were so many resources, and that is a really beautiful thing in the oncology world. So I really do feel like people come together and are so supportive. But that is also, I will say, that is Grisell. That is you, because everyone loves you. And if you asked us to like do a backflip, I'm not sure we can do it, but we might try.
I can do it.
We could try. I don't know if it will be
so for next year,
10.
I'll add that on the list. Michael will be doing a backflip.
Oh no, I'm going to be doing it. What do you mean? We're going to do it in tandem.
Well, we'll use some AI to generate us doing a backflip.
Yeah, can we use AI?
Play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, but that is you. All right, do you want to ask, like, we always ask like some fun personal questions.
So you already answered. Oh, here's Kitty again.
Oh my gosh, our cat is really into you. She loves you, Grisell. Go away.
Okay. You already answered this because you did say your superpower, what it was, but I want to. But if you had a superpower, like a real, like, okay, you have a real.
Not
superpower,
a real. You have a real one.
But like a superpower, like any superpower in the world, what would you choose to have?
So I always say I would love to be invisible.
Ooh.
But I also believe that singing is a superpower in and of itself. Mm-hmm. And I would love to have a beautiful voice and be able to just.
Yeah. Are you a shower singer?
No, I'm not actually.
Okay.
Surprisingly not.
But are you like, do you like
I feel like I'm a car singer. Yeah.
Okay. I do that too.
I
like
think
at
we
the
all
top,
do that.
the top of my lungs. Like,
yeah,
I don't
and then
even,
you just put it, that's a good one. And you're like putting it louder.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I can sing okay, but I always wished I had like a great voice. So I can totally tell. Invisible kind of scares me. I'm like, what would I overhear by mistake? I'm not sure I want to know.
See, I feel like it's like if I need just like a second, that's it.
That's true. Then no one can bother you.
No one can bother me. No one.
That's actually true.
And then I have it's like a choice, just like, all right, like okay, I'll go back in the room.
All right, this one relates to that one. Like these are like our fantasy questions, okay? What if you had a magic wand? If you could do one thing.
If I could do one thing.
And this I'm expecting to be different. We get a lot of oncology people that say something, but I wonder if it will be different
like just
from you.
For myself or just I guess in the world?
In general.
And you take it how you
like,
want to go.
Do anything
but you can't make a wish for 3 more wishes, okay? Not that Aladdin thing or whatever.
That's a hard one.
It is hard.
If I had a magic wand.
Or should we make it more specific? If you could change something in healthcare, let's be a specific one. If you had a magic wand in healthcare, that'll be easier.
As a child light specialist, we also handle a lot of just like donations and all the support that comes into the hospital, I think if I had a magic wand specifically for healthcare, I would try to change, I guess, like the system in the sense of how things come in and how easily we can use it from then like an actual like inpatient standpoint, if that makes sense. I would say we're very fortunate. I mean, all children's hospitals are very fortunate to get a lot of donations and, oh, like this person is going to donate for this and that. But I think sometimes when it comes to then being able to like use those resources, it's maybe not as easily accessible. And I think it just comes from the top not knowing as much about how it works, like on the inside, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think
It'd
I
be
would
nice
change.
to take those donations and kind of do what you need to do, as opposed to going through all the red tape and all of the stuff.
Which I understand why there's red tape and why things are the way that they need to be. But I would say focusing on that so we never have to have, like, we don't have to like limit, let's say, resources that whoever needs it can get it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, oh no, but it's only, this and that. And I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, it does make sense. I understand that. Okay. What is your favorite? Do you have a favorite experience, like how you did that coronation for Michael? Do you have a favorite like moment? I mean, I know you've done so many fun things because I've seen. I
feel like there's so many.
There's so many. Do you have one that's just like, oh my god?
Well, like most memorable.
Most memorable.
I think it would probably be that TikTok you did with Michael.
Oh my god, that was funny.
That TikTok was so funny. Okay, if you guys, I should just say this. Michael is 6'1", 6'2", and Grisell is...
I'm 4'10".
4'10". So
I thought it was like lower fives, like 5'1" maybe.
Lower fives.
That's what I should have done for my magic wand. Be 5 feet.
Oh no, it should have been like more than 5 feet, like maybe like 5'8". Like, don't settle for.
I don't think I'd want to be that tall.
Yeah, it's pretty tall up here.
Like,
air gets thin.
I feel like I'm used to being short. I don't mind it. I think I'd be good with a solid, like 5'3".
I think it's good. The kids love you. You're, the size is size is good. Taller
people die earlier. It's true.
Taller people die earlier. Michael, what are you saying?
I saw
it. I think it's actually.
No, it's true.
No.
I think it is true.
Can we shrink?
No, we can't.
Oh well, we're not that tall. Come on.
No, I know, but like generally tall people die earlier.
Oh no. Well, good. Okay, you're gonna live a long time. So
I think I thought of my most memorable, or one that I was like one of the most unique. So I had a patient once. He was a bone marrow transplant patient, and funny enough that we talked about the definition of hemonc, he was actually a hematology patient. So he wasn't oncology, went through transplant. So he had never gotten chemo. He'd never lost his hair. He'd never been in the hospital for a long time. So losing his hair was a huge impact. So he had told me before that his hero, which is the funniest part of the story, I would say, was Tupac.
Okay.
That was his hero. Mind you, he was a younger, I think he was like 8, 9.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it wasn't an older kid.
It wasn't like an older teen. Okay.
Yeah, no.
Oh my god.
It was like a school age kid. His hero was Tupac.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, what if we make like a Tupac inspiration wall? I was like, Tupac was bald.
Yeah. I was like, that's what I was just gonna say. Yeah. That was his hero, and he was bald.
Yeah. So we made a whole wall. Like I filled up the bathroom wall with pictures of Tupac. And then in that moment, I was like, hold on, I can make this 10 times better. I went around the whole hospital and...
You brought Tupac back to life.
Almost.
With the magic wand.
Almost.
You changed your wish. Okay.
So there's one picture, I found like a bandana. I found like a little like jewel.
You dressed up?
I dressed him up as Tupac.
Oh, you dressed him up.
And we had a Tupac photo shoot.
Oh, no
And I brought a Polaroid. Amazing. And so he did like the poses of like Tupac. And I was like, listen, you're bald just like Tupac. Like that's your hero. Like what?
That's
like, you got
amazing.
This. I was like, only difference is your hair's going to grow back. Like it's just right now. And he literally walked around like it made such a difference. And I think that's like the beauty of child life is those little moments make such a difference. And it's something that, you know, you can see as like so silly. And I thought of it like, you know, quick, and it was maybe what, like, you know, an hour or something, but it made such a difference for his entire mood, for his entire admission, for that whole process of
Beautiful.
losing his hair.
Oh my God, I love that.
I love that.
That is beautiful. Okay, we have one.
So that
That's
was a
beautiful.
fun one.
We have one final question, and this is a serious one. We do always ask this, and I think it hits home a lot with cancer survivors, but I still think for you it will hit home as well. So, if you knew today were your last day, or tomorrow were your last day, what would you do?
If I knew tomorrow was my last day,
Not of child life specialty, but like on Earth.
Yeah. I think I would get all the people that are closest to me and go travel somewhere. Like just go like maybe it's like one of the wonders of the world. Like something like that. And just like that's my last 24 hours. Like I'm with the people that I love and doing something cool or seeing something I never thought I would ever see. That's what I would do.
I love it.
That's amazing.
The common thread is being with people we love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
It's
think
the common to everyone.
You learn so much from being in HEMOC, and I can imagine the perspective and how just getting that diagnosis changes you, but even from the perspective of someone who, you know, sees it and is part of that journey, like it changes you.
It changes
so much.
you.
I mean, and for the better. Like I always say, I'm a better person because I work in HEMOC. Like these kids have taught me more than I could have ever taught them.
It's crazy, right? That's why I say, Michael, you know, people say, how old is he? I'm like, 102, 103, 50, he's not 55. They're like 100 and something. All the wisdom up there from everything he's been
It's
through.
true. Kids are, I had one patient once, I'll never forget. She was, and again, it's always like the school age ones that will tell you the funniest things. She's like, I was teaching her about her surgery or before. I don't know if it was like port biopsy, like something. And I was like, well, you're going to get anesthesia. It's like the sleeping medicine to help you fall asleep, like, explaining it all. And she was, I have an idea. I was like, okay. She's like, I think that my mom should get some anesthesia. She's like, because I'm not nervous about this. She's like, I'm going to go to sleep and they're going to, you know, take the little piece of, you know, the mass and I'm just going to wake up. But she's going to be nervous waiting for me. They got to give her something.
That is so, how old was she?
That's so
I
funny.
think she was like 11.
Oh my God, that is so wise.
I love that.
That is like,
And that's the best part of peds is you never know what's going to come out of these kids' mouths.
and that's wise. Like, as a caregiver, I can say a lot of parents think that their person they're caring for doesn't realize. That's the proof. Person you're caring for knows what you're going through.
Yeah.
Not exactly.
You
but
need some
sort of.
anesthesia, Mom.
I don't. What I need is like music, dancing.
Yeah. No, but it's true. Kids know more, and I think
They
they're
do.
more resilient than parents
give them-
realize.
I think
Yeah,
so,
than they
too.
get credit for. And I know
I
that's
think so,
always a
too.
conversation that I have with parents when their child first gets diagnosed. Because then it's like should we tell them it's cancer? Should we not tell them it's cancer?
Right.
Like, how are they going to react? Like, and they always, depending on the situation, I'm like, I think they already know. Like, I think they have an idea, or I think they're going to take it a lot better than you realize. And usually they do. And usually parents are like, oh my God, like, you were right. Or, oh my God, that was way better than I thought it was going to go. And I was like, yeah, like, I think kids just need to know what's happening and explain it to them in a not scary way and welcome them into the process and have them be a part of it.
I think you're right. I think that's a hard thing, though. I've seen that just yesterday. Someone I know that their child is not going to make it, and she was asking, should I tell my daughter? And it's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard. On that fun note.
Yeah.
Oh my God. How did we go from like the fun questions to me crying? Oh well.
No.
Thank you so much,
No, of
Grisell.
course.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on the
Oh
podcast.
my gosh. It's
Thank you.
you're amazing. You're a gift. I don't know what we would have done without you the last 4 years. Well, okay, a little less than 4, but almost actually 4.
Ish.
Exactly 4. We met you just
Almost.
around this time
Yeah,
4
'cause
years ago.
I've been a-
Yes.
In January, I'll officially be a specialist for 4 years because you met me as a student.
Yes.
Exactly. I remember that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I was just a little baby student. Here I
You
am.
were. And now you're still very little, but now
Still
you're a
very
very
true.
wise professional woman.
Exactly.
We love you so much. Thank
Yeah, we
you.
love
No,
you.
I
Thank
love you
you.
guys too. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Of course. And this is an official goodbye from your host, Michael Kramer.
And the other host, Ashlee, aka Mom, and Grisell. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you everyone for listening.
You guys.